Hello everyone, welcome back to Flying Through the Helicopter Flying Handbook. It's a continuation of Chapter 2, which is all about aerodynamics. And in this video, we're going to talk about something you've probably been waiting to talk about, and that's autorotations. Autorotations are a fun thing to do in a helicopter. They're also something you have to do if you ever were to experience something such as an engine failure. So how does this work? Well, we talked about the normal situation in a helicopter. We said in the normal situation, you're going to have the air being sucked down through the rotor. But if your engine has failed, you can have it work by having air pushed up through the rotor. Now, the book talks about vertical autorotations from the start. The reason for this is they are a lot easier to understand. And once you understand them, then understanding forward flight in an autorotation is really not all that difficult. So again, normal powered flight, we're sucking the air down through the rotors. Autorotation, the air is going up through the rotors. So what happens is it causes the main rotor to spin, which also will turn the tail rotor so that we can actually fly. And it's really that simple. So we have that thing called a freewheeling unit. So the freewheeling unit says, hey, is the rotor turning faster than the engine? Well, if the engine is dead, yes, it is. I will disengage the engine from the transmission, and I will allow the rotors to spin freely. So that is how we do an autorotation. Now, because we have air being pushed up through the blades, now I should point out a couple of videos on nothing but autorotations, in particular autorotations in a couple of aircraft such as the Schweitzer S300 CBI. So I would encourage you to look at those. We're going to talk about autorotations kind of generically in this video, and we're not going to get into a lot of particular specifics of how do I perform an autorotation in a particular helicopter here. So, I would encourage you to go ahead and have a look at those videos. Okay, so in general, when you are performing an autorotation, you'll hear people say things like down, right, aft. So you drop the collective down, and you do that in order to decrease the blade's pitch on the main rotor so that it will actually spin. If the pitch is too high, the air rushing up will not spin it fast enough, and that's bad. So you actually use the collective to regulate the speed at which the main rotor is spinning. So it's down and then right. We talked about the pedals. We said the left pedal is your power pedal. So you bring power in, you put in the left pedal. Bring power out, such as an engine failure, you put in the right pedal. So it's collective down, right pedal, and then aft. You want to pull aft on the cyclic for a couple of reasons. One reason is you don't want the nose to drop substantially. Another reason is, remember we talked about coning in a previous video. So if I pull back on the cyclic, it will tend to load up the rotor, if you will, and that causes it to cone, and coning causes an increase in the rotational speed of that rotor. So there's a couple of reasons why you do that. So it's down, right, aft. Okay, so let's get into some more of those details. We have the different regions of our rotor blades. And what are those? Well, we have this outer portion. This is what we call the driven region. Why is it driven? It's driven because it's producing lift, but that lift is tilted slightly aft. So it's also producing drag. And then in the middle here, I have what's called the driving region. And here the lift that's being produced is tilted slightly forward. And this causes the rotor to turn. And that's what causes it to spin and allows us to do an auto rotation. And then we have the stalled region right here in the very middle. It's just kind of hanging out. It's not doing anything. The angle of attack is too high and the speeds are too low for it to produce any kind of lift. So it's just there. Now, if you look at it from a different perspective, you'll see it looks kind of like this. So, let's start with our driven region here near the tip. You can see my thrust, or what they call the total aerodynamic force, is tilted backward. Right? So if I resolve that into components, I have my lift and I have a little bit of drag. And what's my angle of attack? Well, it's, decent, right? I am producing a little bit of lift. Typically in an auto rotation, you're descending somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 feet per minute. So if you do a little bit of math, if you started at 500 feet, you're going to be on the ground in about 20 seconds. Okay, then we have this equilibrium point, that's point B and D here, where you change from driven to driving and from driving to stalled. And now that total aerodynamic force is straight up. So it's not doing anything. And then we have the driving region where that total aerodynamic force is tilted forward, even just a little bit. And that causes us to have a force which causes this thing to rotate. And then finally, we have the center portion, which is stalled, where that angle of attack's just too high and it says, I'm doing nothing but producing drag. Sorry, I'm not really producing any usable lift. So that is a vertical auto rotation. Now you also have a forward auto rotation. If you're going forward, all that really happens is these regions shift. And you'll notice that they move toward the retreating blade. So this yellow region, the stalled region, that used to be centered on the hub, is now been pushed to the left in a standard helicopter. Same thing with this driving region and this driven region. So real quick, just because I know you want to see it, let me go ahead and attempt a quick auto rotation. I'll just do a boring straight in auto rotation to show you kind of what it looks like. Right, entering in 3, 2, 1, down right aft.